Let me tell you a story of how over 2 million sailors died because they did not eat oranges. Now, this is a story of a disease called scurvy. Scurvy is a disease that results from the deficiency of a vitamin called vitamin C. Now, this story started at a time that was called the Age of Exploration. In this time, it was when the British they were in the sea, they were doing long voyages, they were trying to explore new worlds, they were trying to conquer new worlds. So they had sailors who spent a really long time on the sea. And after they had spent a long time, they noticed that most of them started falling sick and dying. Now, this sickness usually started with weakness, fatigue. Afterwards, their gums will start getting swollen. If you touch their gums, it will bleed, their teeth will fall off, their joints would ache them. If they had injuries and the injuries were healing, suddenly the injuries that were healing would stop healing and they would start opening up. Eventually, these people they would die. And this became a huge problem because a lot of sailors were actually dying more than the people that were dying from the war. So a lot of captains they tried to explain it. Some of them said maybe because their sailors were lazy, that's why they were complaining. Others said maybe it was the bad air in the sea that was causing it. Some others said that maybe it was witchcraft. A lot of things were said that was the cause of the scurvy, but none of them were true because people kept dying. In fact, more people actually died from scurvy than from fighting any war. What even made it a double tragedy was that some of these sailors they didn't volunteer to become sailors. They were literally grabbed off the streets, press ganged, and forced to be sailors. So just imagine someone coming in your bed at night, grabbing you while you're sleeping, and the next time you wake up on a ship, and they tell you, "Oh, you have to serve." And while you're serving, you die, you get sick, and then you die, and you never get to go home again. So it was a terrible thing that was happening in that period, and there was so much superstition going on. Another interesting thing was that while they were at sea, they also had cats and dogs. But those cats and dogs, they did not fall sick. It was only the sailors that were falling sick. So they didn't understand that it was because human beings are not able to produce their own vitamin C by themselves. They needed to get it from the diet. While those cats and dogs and other mammals, they were able to make their vitamin C. The earliest written history of scurvy was actually the Egyptians. They wrote in their time, their physicians said that if you took onions, you would not have scurvy. And that was because onions has a bit of vitamin C in it. So they didn't know that the reason why taking onions would prevent you from having scurvy was because of the vitamin C. They just knew that taking onions would prevent you from having scurvy. However, scurvy now became like a really infamous thing, like something that was popular at that time when they were having all those explorations. So they needed to find answers to it because you would take people and you needed them to fight, and they won't even live long enough to get to where they are needed to fight. There are so many recorded history of lives lost, of um, of ships that lost more than 90% of their sailors to scurvy. Some histories recorded that there was a ship that went on a voyage with more than 1,000 men, and by the time they were coming back, they had less than 100 men, and all of them died from scurvy. They didn't go to fight any wars; they just died from scurvy. So the impact of scurvy at that time, it was really, really so much. And it was really important that they needed to find out what was killing all their sailors. So here's what they did. There was a man, his name was James Lind. He was a surgeon in the British Army. So one day he decided to do an experiment. He brought 12 people that had scurvy and he decided to divide them into 6 groups, 2 persons per group, and he gave them different types of treatment to see which one would work and make them better. So what he did was to some people he gave vinegar, to some people he gave cider, to some people sadly he gave sulfuric acid, and then to some people he gave oranges, to others he gave barley water, some other people he also gave sea water. So, but what he realized that at the end of his experiment, after giving them the same treatment over a period of days, he realized that the people that he gave oranges and lemon, they got better over time and they were able to resume their work. So he wrote a book. He wrote a book for the British people and he told them, oh, this is what you need to do. I think you just need to make lemon and oranges available for your soldiers and then they are going to be fine. They will not be sick anymore. Mm. But the British people did not hear him or did not agree. It was after 40 years that they decided to listen to him. After so many of their men have died, they decided maybe what James said was true. So they now said, okay, we're going to be giving every soldier every day a ration of lemon and lime. And when they started that, that was when they stopped having a case of scurvy in their army. But this story did not end here. Even though they knew that giving lime and lemon solved the problem, they didn't know what inside that lime and in the lemon that was stopping that scurvy from happening. The discovery of what was inside the lime and lemon that was stopping discovery from happening happened around 1928. That was in the 20th century. That was a long time after they had done this research. James Lind has done his experiment and they started giving lemon. That was like almost 200 years later. So a man called Albert, he's a biochemist, he did a research and he realized that the reason why giving lime and lemon to people stops scurvy was because there was something in that lime and lemon. So initially he called it hexuronic acid. Afterwards, they changed the name to ascorbic acid. This man, Albert, after doing his research, he won a Nobel Prize. Since the discovery of vitamin C, scurvy has been a thing of the past, except for isolated cases of maybe malnutrition or picky eater. So scurvy is actually an easily preventable disease. I'm sure if we go back in time and we meet all those sailors who died because of scurvy and we told them all they needed to do was to eat an orange, they'll be very upset at themselves. So what am I saying? Today, eat that orange. Oh. Eat that fruit. Eat it. The truth is that vitamin C can be gotten from a lot of fruits, not just oranges, not just lime. Yes, they have a higher concentration in citrus fruits, but almost every fruit has a bit of vitamin C in it. Our vegetables, our ugu, our regular vegetables that we buy in the market, they have vitamin C. And that's why, in all honesty, if you're eating a healthy and a balanced diet, you would rarely ever have a case of scurvy. So eat that orange.